The following production is part of the Play Some Video Games podcast network.
Boarders, and welcome to Board with Video Games, the gaming podcast that strives for the right balance of coverage for games you play on your table and on your television. You can think of us as the Marty McFly and Doc Brown of gaming podcasts. We're a proud member of the PSVG Podcast Network and thrilled to be part of the Dice Tower Network as well. I am one of your hosts, Kyle, and joining me on this co-op adventure, the guy who brings the gigawatts of energy to this podcast. Josh, how are you doing?
I wish I had gigawatts of energy today, but I have just regular watts of energy and a phone going off in the middle of me talking.
You know, we're a couple weeks removed from the last time we recorded. It would make sense that we're out of practice, that we're...
That's William Markowitz, by the way.
Oh, perfect. William's part of the show, even when he isn't here.
Yep.
So, but yeah, so last week's episode was a bit of a... kind of a more evergreenish episode, not so focused on timeliness, if you would. So we're back to it. We're back to the old salt mines, if you would, recording some episodes. How was your vacation, sir?
It was stressful at the beginning and then too short at the end. So it was great.
Stressful and short. That sounds like the perfect vacation.
Yeah, no, it was nice. It was, I don't know about everybody else, but the first day, like, you're unpacking and it doesn't really feel like much of a vacation day. Mm-hmm. It kind of feels like a waste of a day. And then, we went to the beach, so it was like the perfect weather. So the beach was mobbed. We didn't have anywhere to park. Too many people came up with us the first day we got there. So it was just a logistical nightmare trying to get everyone in and find parking and pay for parking and all that kind of stuff. But after the weekend was over, parking was ample, and we had great weather. It didn't rain. Well, it sprinkled once while we were on the beach, but that was fine. We got some great waves. It was awesome. We had a great time. Played some board games, spent some time with family. I can't complain.
That's pretty good. That's excellent. Yeah. I didn't go anywhere cool. I just stayed home and did stuff. By stay home.
Okay.
By stay home, I mean I went to work every day like I do as normal. So
that's not a vacation at all.
No, I wasn't on vacation.
I know you're.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. It was fine. It was very hot here for a few days, but that has broken and passed at this point, which is pretty spectacular because the last couple of days have been absolutely stunning.
Yes, that's good. Yeah, the day we came back from vacation from the beach into the city. Mm-hmm. It was 100 degrees in the city when we came back with about 85% humidity. So it felt like 150 degrees.
Yeah, that's what we were running for a few days at the end there. And it was getting rough. That is for sure. I know it's really hot out when my dogs don't want to go outside.
Yeah. Jeez.
They go out to go to the bathroom and usually they want to spend all the time they can outside. And when they peace out and say, nope, let me back in the air conditioning. I know it is very warm outside. So, hey, transitioning very briefly, Marty McFly and Doc Brown.
Yes.
So I had a conversation at work the other day, and that's what inspired this duo. Would you say that Back to the Future, backing up, I'm assuming you've seen Back to the Future.
Yes, I have seen it.
When was the last time you saw Back to the Future?
Oh, it hasn't been too long. I would say probably 2 years ago. So
okay.
Like the most recent.
So it's been quite a while for me. Probably 6 years since I've seen Back to the Future.
Okay.
Been quite a while. But would you say, because I have coworkers who have never seen the movie,
wow.
Would you say that Back to the Future is a classic?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, not just a classic of the 80s, but in the entire history of film, would you say Back to the Future is considered a classic in that context?
Yeah, it's a must-see film. It is influential to future and current cultures. It inspired a lot of things after the movie came out.
Right.
things that if people haven't seen the movie, they might be shocked to find out and notice.
Right. That's kind of the same boat I was on and a couple other people were on. But then someone I work with very much was saying that Back to the Future is the most overrated movie, basically, of all time.
I could probably find 20 overrated movies in a 20-minute conversation with you that are way more overrated than Back to the Future.
So, but anyway, Back to the Future. But it made me want to watch it again, and I just haven't seen that movie in so long. So
it holds up. It's a classic for that reason too. You can just watch it, and there's like maybe one cheesy CGI scene, but everything else is practical effects, so it holds up.
Excellent. So I'll have to put that on the list here, the short list to get back to again soon. And maybe towards the end, we have some listener questions that kind of gear towards movies a little bit. So maybe we'll take it a minute or two to talk about San Diego Comic-Con stuff at that point as well. But until then, hey, let's get to the podcast. And thanks so much for joining us this week, everyone. As always, if you have any feedback, questions, suggested topics, hit us up at Board with VG on Twitter, or check out all the awesome stuff over on the Instagram, also Board with VG. We are a proud part of PSVG, and PSVG is on Patreon. We are thrilled with the support you've given us there thus far, and if you'd like to monetarily support what we do, you can find us at patreon.com/PSVG. But the most important thing is just that you listen, and maybe share a podcast with someone else who you think might enjoy it as well. As a quick aside, I do want to give a big thanks to those who are at the producer level over on Patreon: Coach Hulk, Edwin Kahlo, Barry Cathcart, Josh Barboni, Chris M., Devin Tyus, Paul Calico, Benny Lou, and Joel Voss, Professor Switch himself. Thank you so much for chipping us a few dollars to help make all of this stuff possible. And we are also a member of the Dice Tower Podcast Network. So if you enjoy our conversations about board games and would like to dive deeper into that world, we encourage you to check out the Dice Tower Podcast as well as all of the other members of the network. No matter what type of board games you enjoy, there's a podcast on the network that is right for you. So enough with the housekeeping. Josh, you were on vacation and you played some tabletop games on that vacation. Why don't you tell us about them?
I did. I played some tabletop games. I brought more than we played, which was interesting. Usually that doesn't happen. Usually we play everything. But we had a young visitor, I'll say 5-year-old girl, come with my cousin and his girlfriend, who was the mother of said child. So we played Disney Color Brain, which is a game we bought. My wife wanted to get to bring. Disney Color Brain is essentially, if you've seen the game Pantone, it's very similar. You can find this game at, where did I buy it? Target. Essentially what it is you have teams, and you can have up to 4 teams, but you can play as many people as you want, just splitting them up into teams. And you get 9 colors, like pink, blue, green, red, orange, black, white, purple, whatever the colors are. And then each team has those colors. And then you flip, there's a stack of cards in the middle of the table. You flip one over and it will say like the color of Maleficent's fire, 1 color. And then everyone secretly picks the color they think it is. They place their cards down, and then when they reveal it, if it's a tie, nobody gets points. If obviously they're both wrong, nobody gets points. And the points carry over. So I think we went one round, it was like a 5-point answer. There's some surprising questions. I know a lot of Disney, but there's some really tricky questions in there. Even the color of, I can't remember the name, but the Nathan Fillion plays a Monsters University. The color of their frat T-shirts, 2 colors, and we're like, but it doesn't tell you that. It just says, what are the colors of the Psi whatever Gamma jersey shirts, and it just tells you the movie. It doesn't actually tell you more details. Excuse me. So it was a little hectic, and playing with a younger kid, it was maybe a little frustrating because she'd just be naming 2 colors. She'd just grab 2 colors and be like, it's this and this. You're supposed to keep them secret. She'd say it out loud. It's pink and black. And you're like, no, don't do that. So we tried to have fun with it. But if anyone has maybe older kids, maybe like 8, it's probably 8+ for ages. It's a fun game. You know, it was like $15 at Target. They probably have it at Walmart too. So it wasn't bad. I would definitely want to try it again, maybe at like a family event like Christmas or Thanksgiving or something.
Have you ever played Disney Codenames?
Yes.
Is it similar in the sense, because it sounded like a lot of it is pretty straightforward, but there's always some things that it's asking or some very tricky questions. Because kind of like Disney Codenames surprised me with how challenging it was.
Yeah.
Is it kind of on that same thing where, for the most part, it's straightforward and the bulk of it you're going to get, but there's going to be a solid, quarter of the game or something, maybe not quite that much, that's very challenging that you really have to be up on your Disney knowledge to be able to know.
Yeah. There's definitely, I think from our experience, there's probably just as many hard ones as there are easy ones.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking of something. It was like the color of the shirt of one of the bad guys in Lilo and Stitch. You're like, what?
Okay.
So there's some very tricky, and someone got it, like they knew it, but I didn't. So I think it also, if you have like a very a photogenic memory, that might help you as well. But yeah, there's some Disney tropes though. Like if there's a villain question and a color that's associated with a villain, you're probably pretty good guessing green. That seems to be like a trend in Disney. So
that is, yeah.
There's some things, but yeah, I would say it's definitely challenging. So if you feel like you're a Disney file and you want to challenge yourself, that definitely would be a fun game to try as well.
Awesome.
We played Just One, which is a game I picked up to bring with us. Sorry, I get something in my throat and I keep drinking water and it's not getting rid of it. So Just One is a game where everyone gets a white board or easel almost thing and a dry erase board marker. Each are different colors. You play as a group. You want to. It's kind of like the Mind, where you you want to get a score for everybody that plays, and basically they tell you like, if you only got this many correct, you are terrible. There's room for growth. And what you do is you play over a certain amount of rounds, and each person gets a turn. You start with the first player, and they draw a card. They don't look at it. There's 5 words on the card, and they pick a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. So say I pick 3, and it was something like pizza. So now everyone else, without talking to each other or showing each other what they're writing, is they need to write just one word that they think will get the person to guess what their word is. But if you write something too obvious, you run the risk of everyone else writing the same thing as you. Or if you write something too obscure, the person guessing might not be able to guess it. And that's pretty much how the game plays. We had some rounds where 3 out of the 5 people wrote the same thing down. We had some rounds where no one wrote the same thing down. And that's how the game plays. It's pretty simple. It can be fun. It isn't necessarily fun, depending on who you play with. So I enjoyed it. It's a good party game. It's probably a really good icebreaker game if you're looking to get a game night going, or even like a social gathering going. It would be a very fun game.
So where would this rank then in party games for you? You would pull this out after what?
Oh, after this would be something like after dinner, before dessert. If it's at a function, I don't know if there's a game I would pull this out after. I would probably want to start with this.
So okay, and I'll try to clarify my question better. As far as your favorite party games go, where is this on the hierarchy? Is it even on the hierarchy?
No, it's not in my top 10.
Oh, okay.
It's fine. Maybe I just didn't play with the right group. That's also possible. Yeah, it was fine. It's okay. Not, it's just, it's okay.
That's really interesting to hear you say that.
Yeah,
we'll get into that. We're going to talk about later.
We'll get into that later. We played Jaws, so I know when I play games with my wife, like we sit down and we learn the rules as we play. that's just a thing we do. We play Jaws with my parents, and it was just my parents and my wife and I. This was like the first night that everyone left the beach house, and it was just us.
Mm-hmm.
And I had them watch Game the Game, how to play first, and it took my dad like right out of the game right away. He's like, there's way too much. I don't know what I'm doing. He was very frustrated right from the start, and he was hesitant to ask questions because he felt like he had so many, which really bummed me out.
Mm-hmm.
But after we played, he said, oh, that wasn't so bad. So it was one of those juggling acts where I felt like it's a game that you need to get played before you're introduced to a group, but there has to be a group you play with. So there has to be that group.
Right.
If that makes sense.
This is the B team, so I'll play it with them. So when I play it with the A team, it'll go real well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the next time I play it, it'll go way better. But yeah.
Right.
I mean, anyways, so Jaws the game. I really enjoyed this game. I played the shark because I got to choose who was the shark, and I picked me because why not?
Was it Baby Shark?
It was not a baby shark. My son was
just
asleep.
checking. Okay.
Jaws the game. It's actually this explained a lot more simple than the game is, I would say. I don't know that the game is very, very challenging in the rules, though. I think it's overwhelming for people like my parents who don't play heavy games. This is not a heavy game, but heavier games than what they play. Someone plays the shark, 3 other people. If you're playing 4 players, if you're not, people have to split up their roles. Play Brody, Hooper, and Quint. If you know Jaws the movie, then you know those characters. Certain characters have certain things they can do. Quint and Hooper are on boats. Brody is on the island of Amityville. And what you're doing is trying to track down the shark before he eats swimmers. The shark has one goal in the first act. Eat swimmers and evade capture. That's all you gotta do. As soon as the shark eats 9 swimmers, 9 or 10, the act 1 immediately ends. Or, as soon as you tag 2 barrels to the shark, act 1 ends, no matter how many people the shark has eaten. When you go into the second round, you get cards based on how many people were eaten. So the shark gets more shark like special attack cards, the more swimmers they eat, and the crew get less crew weapons the more swimmers sharks eat. So you're motivated to find the shark. It's hidden movement, so when the shark's moving, you don't know where the shark is in the first act, which if you played any game like games like Fury of Dracula or anything like that, you'll pretty much pick that up right away. The second round, you're on the orca. The crew's on the orca. The shark is swimming around the orca, trying to either eat the crew or sink the orca. And once again, it's a pretty simple concept. You, if you're the crew, you're trying to guess out of 3 possible areas on the boat where the shark is going to attack by firing a weapon into that quadrant using, it's not a quadrant because there's 8 squares, that section. You can use close quarters weapons, but you have to be adjacent to or on that area. Ranged weapons can target any area on the boat no matter how far away you are. And that's it. You're just trying to put damage on the shark. There's a strategy does get into it. This game is very heavily focused on cooperative strategy. You're not going to win if you're not working with your team. That really makes it challenging for the shark. You have hit points at the end. The shark seems like it has a lot of hit points, but once you start taking damage, those hit points drop fast because you also have potentially 3 people attacking you per turn. There are dice you roll for attacks. There's shark ability cards that add fun, interesting bonuses. You can attach a flare to the shark that keeps giving it damage. You can do a bunch of different things. I didn't get to see all the crew cards because they only got 3, which was nice for me. But then ultimately, I was defeated and they did kill the shark. So I lost.
So what I've heard about this game and just reading about it is that it seems maybe very still the wrong word, but it seems like people have indicated that the first round seems very heavily in the Sharks' favor. And then the second round, when you're on the boat, seems more heavily in favor of the crew. Does that seem accurate in your playing?
That is accurate. There were points in the first act, though, where closer to the end, I was noticing that they were doing a good job of tracking me. My wife did a surprisingly very good job at figuring out where I was. I told her, I said, I don't want this to sound weird or condescending, but I'm like really proud of you. You're doing an awesome job at like figuring out. I was very surprised. Like I thought I was being really sneaky.
Yeah.
And she's like, he has to be here. And I was like, how does she know this?
That came across very much as, I'm really surprised my wife did so well. That didn't come across.
I knew how it came. Yeah, I knew how it came across, but I meant it as a compliment. If it was anybody, I would have said the same thing. But there were definitely points where I was kind of trapped. They had motion sensors all around me near the end. So if you play that round right, I think there's more of a balance in the first act than in the second act. The second act, it's like definitely more of a challenge for the shark because you're fighting 3 people at the same time instead of evading them.
Gotcha. So did you enjoy it though?
It was great. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to play it again. I think they did a great job with it. It's nice to see a licensed game not be bad. I think we're seeing more of that now, which is nice. And then the last game we played was Meeple Circus. This was a game I really wanted to get to the table. This was a game that my mother got frustrated with at the beginning when we were going through the rules. So there was frustration all over the place. Once again, it was one of those games that became less frustrating the more we played. Meeple Circus is a dexterity game. You are performing a circus act. You have 2 rehearsals before the big show, and you are drafting meeples and animals and objects to try to match victory point cards that change over the rounds and get victory points, which change per round. And then the final act is usually when you play, everyone's doing it at the same time, and it's timed. At the final act, everyone's doing it. Like one person goes and everyone watches. So it kind of adds a little bit of pressure. You also get I would call it a hindrance card in the final act. Like my dad picked a card where he could only use one hand to stack things. And my mother got one where she had to clap every time she placed someone. And I got one that was like, every time I place an animal meeple onto a human meeple, I have to say, ooh, ouch, every time I do that. So there's fun stuff like that in the last act, but to keep it simple and short, Meeple Circus is a fun stacking dexterity game that if you can get it, I get it for $35 on Amazon. If you can get it under 40, it's a great purchase, and it was fun. Easy recommendation for the price.
What did you not get to play that you were hoping to?
We didn't get to play Gravity Warfare. And we didn't get to play Sagrada with the 5 to 6 player expansion.
Okay.
And I brought Century Golem Edition because I wanted to play that. We also did not play that.
So excited about the next installment of that, which is ordered. Anyway, any other board game things you'd like to chat about?
That's it for me, my friend.
Awesome. So remind me, have we ever talked about Castles of Burgundy on this podcast?
No. It might have come up in a reference to something, but we even talked about the game.
Okay, so had the opportunity, got back in, played some Castles of Burgundy. If you're not familiar, it is a worker placement game, I guess would be the best kind of way to put it. That's not really even accurate. It is a dice rolling set collection game, I think, with some tile placement would be a better way to put it. It is a Stefan Feld game, so you get points for basically everything that you do. And it is... most people consider it to be the best Stefan Feld game. It definitely is very highly rated. I think it's in the top 15 or so on Board Game Geek. It's definitely up there. And I had played this game many, many moon ago, but I had not played it in a while. And when getting together with our board game group, they had gotten it. So we went ahead, busted it out, and played some Castles of Burgundy. As a very brief overview of the play, is on at the beginning, there's 5 phases of the game, and there's 5 rounds in each phase, or vice versa, however you want to look at it. But so you at the beginning of each phase, you roll your dice, and you have 2 dice. Everyone rolls at the same time. And then that is the actions that you're going to take on your turn are represented by the numbers on the dice. So everything on your player board and everything on the center board all have numbers associated with them. And basically what you're trying to do on your player board is build out your kingdom. So you start, when you play the basic rules, you start with a kingdom in the center, and then you're building out, you can get animals, you can get towns, you can get boats, you can get all these things to kind of build out your town, but they're all color coordinated. So you can only put boats on blue spots, but then the blue spot will have a 5 on it. So you have to have, number 1, you could use 1 dice to buy a building from the main board. So if you rolled a 3, you could look at all of the things that are in the 3 pile and buy one of the buildings from there and put it in your reserve. And then if you had the 5 dice, you could use that 5 to take the thing from your reserve and put it onto your player board. That essentially is what you are doing all the time in this game. I think there's only like 4 main actions. You can take pieces from the center board, so you can purchase buildings, you can place buildings from your reserve onto your kingdom. You can ship goods, and you can change dice in for workers, and what workers do allow you to change the number of the die by +1 or -1. So if you have workers and once you use them, they go away, and you can adjust the roll of your die. That is all you are doing on your turn. That is it. But it's then balancing all of the things of, say, you are really focusing on farming. Okay, well, the first time you put down a farming disc, say there's 2 pigs on it. And then the next time you get a farming car, so you get 2 points for that. And then the next time you put down one in the same pasture, there's 4 pigs on it. Well, now you score the 4 plus the 2, so now you have 6 points. And then you have to, when you're building out the cities, you can't have the same type of building in any same quadrant of the city that's touching. So there's a lot of trying to then figure out exactly what am I going to take, when am I going to take it. And then you're also rolling for player turns. So when you play boats, it allows you to move up the player turn track, but sometimes going earlier isn't always better. So it's this really very simple roll your dice, do 2 things. That's all you do. But then there's just a lot of complexity as far as what all of those things possibly could do and how all of those things score, because you get points for everything, and trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do versus what is the next player going to do? And if they move ahead of me, can I do the next thing I want to? Am I still going to be the first player at the end of all of this to go first? So there's a lot of complication to it. And in general, I forgot how much I enjoy this game, because I think it is almost the epitome of very simple to teach. Roll your dice, do 2 things. But the complexity of the decisions you need to make and the impact of, while I may not be directly interacting with players, by taking pieces that they want, or looking at, they're working on focusing on X type of animals, so potentially I can take that away from them. Or, if I look at they're almost done filling this color of building on their board, I'm going to take the last one so they can't do that. So you're not directly interacting, but you have to kind of pay attention to what everyone else is doing and still try to do your own thing, but also not let other people get too far ahead. To give an example of this being a point salad game, I think my partner won, and she had 200 and some points. I don't remember. It was a lot of points. But if you figure, you put down a tile and you get 2 points, well, that obviously adds up over the course of the rounds to finish with 220, 230 points in the game. So, yeah, I really enjoy Castles of Burgundy. In general, I like Stefan Feld games, and I think this is probably his strongest design. I might like Trajan better, which I know may not be the popular opinion. But overall, Castles of Burgundy, if you're looking for that next style or next level, I always kind of classify it as a Euro just because of the complexity of decisions that you need to make, and that your dice kind of serve like workers. But I guess it technically isn't a worker placement game. But I kind of feel the same brain burn when I'm playing that I do from playing a really heavy Euro.
Okay.
So, yeah. Have you ever played Castles of Burgundy?
I haven't, no.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It is a good game. It is definitely a game that it says 30 to 90 minutes, I think, on the box. That is for people who maybe know exactly how to play the game all the time, and you can be done in 90 minutes. The first time you play it, especially if you play it with 4 people and you're kind of figuring it out, it might take you 3 hours. It's not. Yeah, like I said, it's not. It is not a simple game by any stretch of the imagination. So I think the time on the box is pretty off personally, but I really enjoy Castle of Burgundy. I think it is one of those, especially if you're starting to build out a board game collection and you decide that this is a hobby you really want to participate in. I hesitate to say it's a must own, but I would strongly encourage having it a part of someone's collection. So
nice.
Yeah. All right, that was all I played on my tabletop, sir. What have you been playing on your television?
Well, to continue with the vacation, oh my! I hope when you're listening to this, I didn't just make you yawn. Before we went on vacation, I bought Jackbox Party Pack 3 for the Switch because it was on sale. I believe like half price or something like that. Just because I wanted an option for like the nights where people don't want to sit down at the table and kind of sit on the couch and the chairs and just relax. So the first night we were up, there was, 1, 2, 3, there was like 7, 8, 9 of us. There were 9 of us up there. So I said, all right, let's boot up Party Pack 3 and see what's on here and play it. And we ended up playing each game on there at least twice, if not more. It was a huge hit. I wish I could tell you all the games that were on there. Fibbage was one of the big winners, like where you're making up a lie that you're trying to get people to guess. Quiplash, I believe, was on that one. But it was so popular that the next day they asked me to buy another one. So we ended up buying Jackbox Party Pack, which has You Don't Know Jack in it, which was also on sale. So the first 2 nights of vacation, we played pretty much exclusively Jackbox games. At night, during the day, when there was like some downtime, just pretty much constantly. And if people don't know, the best part of Jackbox Party Pack is once you buy the base game, anyone can play as long as they have a cell phone or a tablet. You just go to jackbox.tv and you enter the code that's on the screen, and it works very well. We only had a couple hiccups where sometimes the inputs didn't take, like someone had to pick something and it didn't go through in time. But for the most part, it worked very well. People were laughing. We were having a great time. It was very fun. So those are, if they're still on sale, if you have a large group of people or people who play over the internet, it's a good recommendation. It's tough to recommend for 1 or 2 players. But anything above, and honestly, we played some of those games. We played with like 8 or 9 people with 4, and it was less fun. So the more, the better.
I would agree with that. Jackbox is one of those, I don't want to say hidden treasures or hidden gems, because I feel like a lot of people know about it, but I definitely don't think it gets the recognition it deserves.
Yeah, I don't think people play it as much as are aware of it.
Right.
It's definitely like anytime you're at a social gathering, if you have your Switch, you can just literally bring it and hook it up to a TV, and anyone in the room can play for the most part. Some games have like player restrictions, but for the most part, there's a large amount of player possibilities.
Indeed.
So those are very easy recommendations. Also, while I was on the beach, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 released. I wasn't going to buy it while I was on vacation, but I did. And I played a little bit while I was there, and I played a little bit since I've been back. But I haven't played too much of it yet.
What's a little bit?
I just got to the part where I unlocked like the first big chunk of new characters.
Okay.
So not very far.
Gotcha.
To the part where I can probably play co-op now, because I tried playing with Lucas and I couldn't even play co-op. I was like, okay, I guess I'll play a little bit more. So I got to that part where like you run into more people and then it's kind of like Smash Brothers, like blah. So I don't want to spoil anything for people who might want to be surprised, but like this person's available.
Yeah.
So it was pretty funny to see that happen. Like all of a sudden you're like, hey, here's 15 characters you can play as all at once.
It is very quick that you go from 4 to 12 or whatever it is very quickly and very, very jarringly. Hey, switch up your team. Okay, to who?
And level people up.
Right.
But who? Yeah, who? But I'm enjoying it very much so far. The controls are pretty much good. There was a few camera issues I ran into, but that's not uncommon in games like this. It's to be expected. It definitely has that Ultimate Alliance feel. So, yeah, if you like Ultimate Alliance or Ultimate Alliance 2, this will feel comfortable to you. And I like the art style. Combat's pretty good. I haven't had any issues with controls or fluidity in the gameplay, so I've been enjoying that. And the day before I left for vacation, I bought A Plague Tale Innocence on the Xbox, and I started playing that. I also only put in probably a couple hours into that game. I haven't picked it back up since I got back, only because I've been extremely tired, and it was 2 days in a row with 100-degree heat with no air conditioning. Doesn't really make you want to do anything. But from what I played, I can tell you the game is stunningly beautiful. I could just have said stunning. The game is stunning. It is also beautiful. It is a sight to be seen. They did an incredible job with how the game looks. The controls are great. The story is engaging so far, at least right away it was to me. I really felt like this is a story that was taken out of a book or a movie. It feels very well constructed. And the voice acting is pretty good. I don't know that I've run into any issues with the voice acting. Yeah, it's I'm glad I got it, and I'm glad I got it on sale. Not that I would be happy to pay full price for it, so far with my experience. And I look forward to talking about it more and playing it more. And those are my games.
Awesome. So I got to go in reverse order because why not? You got A Plague Tale Innocence, which means I got A Plague Tale Innocence. And I also started it. But in addition to starting it, I have also finished it.
Whoa.
I have completed the game. That's what I was just looking up. It took me a little over 7 hours.
Okay.
So it's not super long.
Sure.
But this game is pretty darn wonderful. I will put it that way. It very atmospheric, very moody, very cool types of characters that you typically don't get to play as in games, telling really interesting, unique stories. And it definitely has some rough edges, but when it's all is said and done, for the price of the game and for the size of the studio that made it and for all of that stuff, this game is really impressive. It is gorgeous. It looks absolutely stunning on Xbox One X with HDR. It is a great implementation of that. The story, like you said, starts off very interesting. For me, there was definitely a bit of predictability and a bit of a dip at some points. But overall, it kept moving along. It kept being interesting, even if I had an idea maybe of where it was going. It was still something that I found interesting. As someone who is not much of a stealth gamer, I don't usually appreciate stealth in games. I found the stealth in this to be very
fitting.
Yeah, it fit what was happening, and it wasn't overly complicated or burdensome. Wow, I was struggling there. It wasn't they weren't making it more complicated than it should have been, and they do a nice job of adding new things to your inventory as you go to make the puzzle solving kind of that you have to do more interesting as it happens. Once you get towards the end, there's a couple parts where I felt maybe exactly what you needed to do wasn't super, super clear. But then when I figured it out, I said, wow, I was making this way more complicated than it needed to be, because this was mechanics I was taught 3 or 4 hours ago. But for whatever reason, when they were presented right in front of my face, I just didn't think to do it. So, yeah, it was kind of not the game's fault. I think it was just me trying to think that this was going to be more complicated than it was. It was very straightforward for a lot of it, but I enjoyed my time with this. Right now, you and I both got asked to kind of, pick 3. I think Lucas is the one who started this, pick 3 backlog games that we wanted to finish this year. We didn't own this game at that point. Otherwise, this would have been on the backlog. So I thought about just adding it, even though I didn't own it yet, because I figured it was going to get played. But also, just last week we talked about our top 5 games of the year. Had I finished this in time for that episode, this would have been on my top 5 list at this point.
Nice.
So really enjoyed A Plague Tale: Innocence. I highly encourage you, if you have the opportunity to play it. It does some really cool things, and I think for that studio, which I think is Asobo, definitely a awesome entry for them into what is ostensibly a AA game, which we don't get a lot of anymore, and it's well done. I also picked up MUA 3, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, and I'm not very far. I'm a little farther than you are. I haven't been playing for a ton of time, mostly because anytime I wanted to play something, I was either doing Overwatch's summer event or playing A Plague Tale: Innocence. But I like the game, but the entire time I'm playing, and I don't know why I'm doing this, while I'm playing, I can't stop thinking about how there are other games on this system who do this gameplay way better, i.e. Diablo.
Sure.
And is it fair to compare a game to the, best game of that style in that genre? Probably not. But that game's also available on this system.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm not gonna give it a full review. I'm gonna continue to play it. So far, though, I feel underwhelmed, I will say.
Gotcha.
By my experience with it. I think the characters are cool. I think it sometimes is trying too hard to fit into what we know and what Marvel kind of has become to us. And I think having the art style being as different as it is helpful, that the characters don't look necessarily like MCU versions of these characters.
Yeah.
But I feel like many of the voice actors are taking cues from that and trying to make line delivery and all that stuff feel fitting to that. And unfortunately, whether it's the writing or which trying to write a game like this has to be darn near impossible. Yeah. I can't imagine trying to write this style of game, but everything kind of has fallen really flat for me as far as all of that, who the characters are, how they interact with each other, the one-liners and funnies they try to do. I have on all of that. I've struggled to find any of that to be remotely engaging at all. So we'll see. Like I said, I'll keep playing it. Every time I sit down to play something, there are other things I prefer to play at this point rather than that. So I've only played it handheld. I do want to try to play it on the big screen. Maybe that will make a difference. So, and finally, a few weeks ago, maybe even a few months ago at this point, Donnie in our Discord had made a comment about how challenging it was to find peripherals for Rock Band 4 anymore.
Yeah.
And he showed some pictures of prices on eBay and Amazon and things like that. I couldn't believe that it was actually that expensive. So I went and looked myself. And trying to find peripherals is really hard. Went and tried like Craigslist and all that good stuff in the area, and nobody had anything. So then I started hemming and hawing, thinking, you know what? Maybe I'll sell mine because I have a Rock Band 4 guitar. I have Rock Band 4 for PS4. Maybe I'll sell mine, make a good little profit off of it. I do think it's really interesting that they're still releasing songs regularly, and they have basically seasons of competition in it, but they're not producing the peripheral
anymore.
Buy
any
so I find that very odd that you go to their website and you go to Harmonix's website for Rock Band and there's links to buy the game. And then when you click on the link to buy the guitar, it takes you to the Amazon page where people are selling used guitars for $190. So something just doesn't feel good about that to me, which I understand too, though I can't imagine those are super cheap to manufacture. But if you're not selling the peripheral anymore, it just seems odd. Anyway. So long story short, I was thinking about selling it, but I said, before I sell this, I'm going to download Rock Band 4 one last time, play a few songs. And my gosh, Josh, did I fall back in hard.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this game is so fun.
I love Rock Band.
Now I feel bad because way back when I got this game, my partner said, hey, you should get a second guitar so we can play together. And I said, oh yeah, I'll do that. And then moved on to other games, and just recently, it was about the time Donnie had mentioned how expensive guitars were. She mentioned, hey, we should maybe look at getting another guitar again, so we could do some Rock Band stuff. We haven't done that in a while, and I went, oh man. So I'm now on a hunt to try to find a reasonably priced Rock Band 4 peripheral. We have a really small mom and pop type gaming store close to me, and I went there just to see by chance if they had one, and they didn't. I went to my local GameStops just to see if they, by chance had one lying around, because they didn't say they had any on the website, but I figured why not? That was in the area. They didn't either. And it's interesting because all of them said that not a lot, but a couple people a month or so will come in asking for one to see if they can get them. So there clearly is still a market, but I don't think it's a big enough market probably to justify producing new guitars again.
Yeah, when we did our spring cleaning last year, I threw out 5 guitars and drums and microphones, not realizing if I had just hung on to them, I had to get rid of them for space. Like, as much as I wanted to keep them, I had like the Guitar Hero World Tour guitar. Mm-hmm. I had 2 of the wireless ones. I had 2 of the regular Rock Band ones, the drums, all that stuff. We bought the little extra snare things that go on the drums to like quiet them. Mm-hmm. And I just I can't keep holding on to these forever. And I tossed them, and like, it wasn't too long ago that I got that same regret of like realizing how expensive they are.
Yeah, buying the full kits of the guitar, the microphone, and the drums, I think is something $400 or $500 now. That is what people are selling them for. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. So who knew that your plastic guitar instruments were going to be the baseball cards of, the 1920s and 1930s. Now that is plastic instruments from games gone by. I beat myself up a little bit because I realized when I had sold my previous generation stuff, I had sold all of my guitars, but then I did remember that I had them on Xbox, not on PlayStation. So they wouldn't have worked anyway, because they went to the next gen, but same family. So then I try to be tricky and look for PlayStation 3 like Guitar Hero guitars and stuff. Same situation. I thought maybe if I didn't actually look for like the Rock Band 4 thing, and I found some on Craigslist and stuff, but they were all, we don't guarantee they're going to work. They're 3 hours away. You have to come pick it up. And I wasn't quite that committed to the cause. So, but Rock Band 4, jumping back in, that game's still really fun. It's a really good time. So that's kind of all the stuff that I have been playing. But I will say I did, in an effort to meet that play 3 games from your backlog before the end of 2019, I did download Outer Wilds. So that is the next plan now that A Plague Tale: Innocence is complete.
Cool.
All right. So that's what we have been playing, dear listener. We're going to move on and talk about a little bit of our topic of the show. And this week, like I said, last week we did that kind of more evergreen episode where things weren't super timely, just talking about the year as a whole at this point. And this week we wanted to come back and kind of get caught up, if you would, and just talk about some of the hot things going on in gaming for the last two weeks or so. Some of these things will be items that other folks have talked about in depth, but they were things that were interesting to us that we wanted to kind of get our thoughts out there on, talk a little bit about, and maybe have a bit of discourse, if you would. Who knows? Or maybe we'll agree on everything. We'll have to wait and see. So, Josh, why don't you go ahead and talk about maybe some pretty important awards that were announced recently?
Oh, it would be my honor. The Spiel des Jahres 2019 winners were announced on July 22nd. This comes to us from the DicetowerNews.com. So, the winners of the 2019 Spiel des Jahres are, well, we'll start with the game of the year. It goes to...
Josh, best game of the year.
Goes to Just One from Repost Games. And, hey, I'll give it another shot.
Is there... Okay, before you play it, what was the timing of Just One winning the Spiel and you playing it? Did you play it before it won?
Yes.
In your mind, then, since you had played it and then you found out it won the Spiel des Jahres,
yeah,
what was your reaction to that?
It was, that's pretty much it. Yeah. I mean, I would have to look at all the past Spiel des Jahres winners just to like, I think The Mind was one of them, right?
Oh man, now I'm not going to remember. I think so. Yes.
So I feel like that fits along with maybe the me not necessarily enjoying it, but not loving it. It's fine. Like this game is probably like this game was the hotness forever. Every time you'd see someone on board game social media, they're playing this game and talking about how much they enjoy the game. Like I get it. It just didn't hit for me like it hit for a lot of people. I thought it was fine. I also think that the group of people I was playing with, they didn't necessarily have this like want to keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what, like it just wasn't the right scenario, the situation.
So as a brief recap, Just One obviously won this year. 2018, Azul won. The Mind was nominated but did not win.
Oh, okay.
So Azul won in 2018. 2017 was King Domino. 2016 was Code Names. 2015 was Colt Express. 2014 was Camel Up. 2013 was Hanabi. 2012 was Kingdom Builder. Just, as some examples.
Yeah, I guess. Well, so the other two nominated games were Werewords and Llama.
Yeah.
I played Werewords. I liked it better than Just One.
Okay.
But my wife didn't like Werewords. So that just wasn't her style of game. So this just might not be for me. I'll give it another shot with like my gaming people.
Okay.
Let's see if they like it, and maybe it'll be a hit. It could just been the people we played with. But for me, it's not something that I'm going to tell people to run out and get.
Understandable. We can't like them all, but when you look at that other list of games, those all seem pretty strong. So it's just surprising that Just One fell so flat for you. But hey, not every game's for everyone. So
that's right. Just one game isn't. It was a lazy one too.
That was a dad joke if I've heard one. Nicely done.
Thanks. Transitioning away from that, the Kinderspiel des Jahres, the children's game of the year, was awarded to, Valley of the Vikings, also known as Marie. Oh, wait, sorry, not also known as, by Marie and Wilfried Fort. It's a Haba game, which they typically do very well in the des Jahres categories, especially for children's games. I am not familiar with this game. It was nominated against Go Gecko Go and Fabulantica. But I'll check it out. I believe this has a dexterity aspect to it. If I'm thinking of the right game, which makes it a little bit more unique because it also incorporates a regular board as well. So I would be interested in maybe getting a play of it, but because it's a kid's game, I will most likely not buy it. Was this on your radar at all? I know we talked about the nominees before, but...
Well, and I think we even talked about the Kinderspiel before, because I think they award that even maybe a month ago. That they announced the winner for that. So, right, Haba, always one of those designers or publishers that I see their bright yellow boxes and I say, hey, they make good games for people who have kids.
Yeah, exactly.
And it might be more than that, but in general, that's kind of how I think of them. So I'm sure it's probably great because in general, they make pretty solid games. So congrats to Haba for publishing another winner.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, and then the last award is the Kennerspiel des Jahres, which is the connoisseur or enthusiast game of the year. And I don't know that this is a surprise, but it's fantastic for Elizabeth Hargrave, who wins for Wingspan, which was up against Carpe Diem and Detective, a modern board game. Elizabeth Hargrave, potential future guest, where I've reached out to, who was interested in joining us at some point, but her year probably just got even crazier now, so who knows what will happen. But yeah, I think it's well deserved, and like I said, while not surprising to me, definitely exciting for Stonemaier Games and Elizabeth Hargrave.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple solid games was up against, and indeed another Steffenfeld game like I talked about earlier. But yeah, very solid win for them. I don't think, kind of like you were saying, totally unexpected, but awesome to see her getting the success that she is. And now I'm very excited, even more excited for Tussie Mussy once we get that in, which should only be a couple months now. I think
Yes.
September, October, something like that.
I think so.
So
Cool. That is the Spiel des Jahres winners.
very cool. Hey, Josh,
Hi.
there is this small, really niche indie board game company. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They used to go by Cool Mini or Not. They then, kind of went by Simon for a while, and now, they're come on. They they announced the thing.
They did.
They announced the thing. So, Cool Mini or Not, in cooperation with Explored, is making a board game console? ?
Yeah.
Tell us all about this, sir.
Oh boy. Well, it's called Taburu. It is a physical and a digital board game console, if you will. Yeah, let's get into it. Via Dice Tower News, we have Taburu. It's a translation Japanese for table. Taburu is truly a multi-sensory system for tabletop board games, one which, quote, seamlessly integrates the physical and digital worlds, end quote. Games will be orchestrated from a central tablet or PC running a Game Master app, with Taburu handling all the communication between consoles, players, and pieces. I don't know. So there's a video out there, people. I encourage you to check it out.
Yes.
You can go to YouTube, just look up Taburu or even Simon, it should pop up. Something that really got my attention and worry at the same time was they show these dice that have microchips in them.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I wonder how much those dice cost and what happens when you lose them or they break. Can your dice break? They still function as a roll, but maybe the game doesn't, the microchip breaks because it can't handle like the shock of it hitting the table multiple times.
Right.
How much am I paying to replace my digital dice?
Right. So from what I understand from watching the video is that there is a foam pad, if you would, on the table, and in that is a sensor pad as well. And then you put the board on it, and then all of the pieces have RFID chips in them. And the dice, like you were talking about, have RFID chips in them. So when you move the pieces on the board, or you roll the dice, the tablet app is able to keep track of all the information that all the things are happening on the table.
Yep.
So does this work? This is what I'm trying to understand, because they made it sound like theoretically it could work for almost any game as long as the app and all that stuff was built out.
Yeah.
But do the RFID dice and the RFID pieces, are these bases you can just slide any piece into? Or does the game itself have to come with all of that stuff in the box? So you'd buy a game and it would be quote unquote Taburu ready or Taburu compatible when you buy the game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I do know what you're saying, and it scares me from the cost point of it. It's not super clear. So what they show in the video, it's very interesting. Like, everyone has their cell phone that works as like their player board. The game interacts with this tablet screen. You get full motion video if people put it into the game. As you roll your dice, it shows up digitally. All of it seems so very cool. I just don't know that it's practical in the board game landscape. It's going to Kickstarter. That's practical. In fact, it's probably the only place it could work. But how many times are you going to want to spend $200 on a new Taburu game? Well, it doesn't have to be crowdfunded every time they want to put out a new game.
Right. Because it seems, so the first game that will be compatible is Zombicide Evolution Las Vegas.
Yes. So
that will be the first game for Taburu. So it sounds like the games have to be made Taburu ready or Taburu compatible, if you would.
Yes. So it's like Vorpal Board, right? So we interviewed Vorpal Board, and basically, instead of us doing all of the scanning in and adding in ourselves, a company is going to do it and charge us for it.
Right. So here's my question, though. can you play Zombicide Evolution Las Vegas without Tabooru? Yes?
That's a great question. We'll find out at the Kickstarter because I don't know that it would be cost effective for them to make 2 different versions of the game.
Right. So I'm wondering if maybe if you use Tabooru when you play it, it just adds a little something extra. They have, like you talked about, the animated cutscenes. They have the extra little bells and whistles, if you would, to hopefully make that experience worth it. What do you think this is going to cost? What is it going to be on Kickstarter?
I don't know. The way Kickstarter runs and CMON games running on Kickstarter, anywhere between $200 to $400.
I'm really curious as to where I can't even guess as to how much this is going to be.
Yeah,
I'm very interested to see what would the price have to be for you to jump in on it.
I wouldn't go over $150. I probably wouldn't myself pay $100. Like if you look at games like the Lord of the Rings game, that's
right.
$80 to $100 depending on where you look, which uses app integration. My biggest worry, which I think I share with a lot of board gamers, is this is eliminating the longevity of a board game.
Yeah.
So like you go buy the Lord of the Rings game that only works with an app. Apps aren't going to be around forever.
Right.
In fact, a lot of app support is disappearing in games.
It's true.
So you're losing the ability to ever play this game when the technology is either outdated or your phone doesn't support that volume or version of that app anymore, and they haven't updated the app. So this is a little different than like backing Dized, where Dized is an app that gives you board game rules. This is backing a board game that completely relies on an app. So I wouldn't want to spend more than I would imagine the value of like 5 plays of a game is. So like when I spend like $100 on a game on Kickstarter, I plan on playing it more than once.
Right.
But I have unlimited time to do that. On this game, I don't know that I have unlimited time to do that.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be at Gen Con, so folks will be able to check it out there. And right now I have more questions than answers about it. And I'm sure, obviously, all of the answers to those questions will come eventually.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised when looking at the comments about this on social media, because I look at this and my initial reaction was, this is really cool.
Yeah.
My second reaction is, I'm probably never going to buy this.
Right.
Because it's probably going to be way more money than I would want to pay. And in general, I don't own a lot of CMON games. I don't think they're bad by any means. I just don't have very many.
Yeah.
But I was surprised at the number of reactions that were pretty negative about it.
Sure.
And that kind of surprised me because I feel that in general, CMON has a very positive, very supportive, very a community that goes to bat for them. Their games are very successful on Kickstarter. I really thought that the general consensus would be, this looks really cool. I'm excited to find out more. And there were definitely some of those, but there were many more of, oh gosh, I don't like the direction this is taking board games. Oh goodness, I don't know. I can never imagine paying for this. Oh goodness, what's wrong with just playing a board game on a board? A lot of that kind of get off my lawn mentality, you know?
Yep.
So I'll be very interested. I think it's very cool. I think it's super cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is a thing I will ever purchase, but I am definitely going to keep an eye on it. That's for sure.
Yes, it's definitely interesting. We're just seeing the same thing that we're seeing in video games, where people don't want to leave analog and go all digital. This is the same thing just happening in board games.
Yeah, in a bit of a different way. All right, so we're going to move on. We're going to talk a little bit here about some video game things that I thought were a little bit interesting here. So, Josh, when I say Gears of War,
yes,
what are the first things that come to mind when you hear Gears of War?
Well, the first thing I think of, because it's topical, is I'm bummed I missed out on my test this past weekend. Even though I downloaded it, I just never found the time to play it.
When I turned it on, my wait time was 4 hours. So I said, I will wait
Yikes.
until the game comes out. Thank you
Okay.
very much. So that was my experience. I started it and said, I'm good. Anyway, what else comes to mind then when you think of Gears of War?
People who are too big for what a person should look like.
Okay, I can definitely see that. They are definitely bulky humans. For me, the first thing I think about is cutting things with a chainsaw gun.
In half, yes.
In half. That's the first thing that comes to mind for me. When I think of Gears, I think of chainsaw gunning people. Okay. Well, apparently some people, the first thing they think about is smoking.
Like they need to smoke.
Potentially. So it was announced, and I guess announced maybe isn't the best way to talk about, revealed, however you want to look at it, that Gears 5 will be a smoke-free establishment, or a smoke-free game, if you would. And apparently Gears 4 was as well, which I never noticed because
Nobody noticed.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody noticed. So in a story on Variety, Rod Ferguson from the Coalition said, quote, I've seen firsthand the devastating impact of smoking. It's always been important for me to not use smoking as a narrative device, which is why we made the conscious choice to avoid highlighting or glorifying smoking in Gears 5 and throughout the Gears of War universe moving forward. According to a rep for Xbox, end quote. According to a rep for Xbox Game Studio, the decision was done solely by the Coalition. So this story goes on, and it's actually a really interesting story to go read on Variety because it talks about a lot of different angles about this situation. Now, obviously, when this came out, there were a significant number of people who jumped to the idea of censorship because apparently when studios make artistic decisions or health decisions in this situation on their own accord, that's censorship of some sort. But when you heard this, I don't know if you read this news or heard this news before we said we were going to talk about it. What are your thoughts? What comes to mind right away when you think Gears of War? They don't, or just Gears, I guess is officially known now. No smoking in Gears.
Good for them. It's I think it means that they whether it was now or earlier, they realize they have some sort of effect on kids playing video games. And forever, since I was a kid, smoking is always used as a device to show off someone's attractiveness, or that they're cool, or they're bad, or they're like the hero of said story, or whatever you want to consider them. Like, it was always used that way. And I know we're in this realm of violent video games as well.
Mm-hmm.
So people are going to use that as a defense against that. But just because your game isn't toning down violence and is eliminating cigarette smoke doesn't mean that because your game is violent, it has to have people smoking. Like, it doesn't, they don't just, like, you don't have to throw all the bad things into one. Mm-hmm. So, like, it's good. Good for them. Smoke free. Eliminate that potential. Or is it alcohol free? I don't know. Maybe they'll announce that next. But that would be another step to take, removing alcohol from video games as well.
So here's my next. Should this even be a story?
No, it shouldn't be a story.
So
unless they want a pat on the back. I didn't hear anyone crying about smoking in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say crying as a demeaning term. I just mean that there wasn't a vocal aspect to criticism of the game on the internet that I saw.
Right.
So, I mean, it can be a story for press before the game comes out. That's fine. Like, it doesn't bother me, but I don't know that, like, me seeing this, it didn't register on my radar at all. I was like, okay, next story. Like, it's not important to me.
Right.
But I'm an adult at this point.
True.
I'm not going to play a game and start smoking because Marcus Phoenix is smoking.
Are you going to start chainsawing people with a chainsaw gun?
No, but probably only because chainsaw guns aren't available to me.
Well, not yet. We'll see.
Not yet.
We got time. The future is young.
If I could go to the convenience store and buy a chainsaw gun, who knows what I would do?
It's true. So I just found this a fascinating story because I don't know why necessarily some big announcement had to be made about this. When you think back of all of your history of playing video games,
Yeah.
how many times can you think of smoking occurring in a game?
There's a few that stick out, like Metal Gear, Conquer. There's like certain games that I definitely think of, but it's not obviously in the scope of how many games I've played. It's less than 0.01%.
Right, because I think of Metal Gear, which kind of had the, smoking so you could see the traps and things like that. And I think of the Elusive Man.
Oh, sure.
Those are basically the two that come to mind when I think about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are probably more than that, but when I think about it, those are the only two. Oh, and I guess probably Sully in Uncharted, now that I think about it too.
With the cigars, yeah.
Yep. So that's about it. It's just not a thing that I think of, or actually, interestingly enough, now that I say this, and I think this is obviously in stark contrast to Gears, but I'm playing Judgment still on PS4. I took a small break in order to finish up in Plague Tale Innocence. But in it, when you go to the convenience store, you can buy cigarettes. And then there are basically I don't want to say missions, but you can like go to smoking lounges or have a smoke outside to listen in on people having conversations to get information. So it's actually a mechanic in the game, and you have to go buy cigarettes to ensure that you have them. So when those opportunities happen, you can take a smoke break and have. So I guess it still is relevant in some current games, but obviously maybe culturally that one might be a touch different. But who am I to say? I don't know that for certain. But that is definitely, there is a lot of smoking in Judgment, a lot. Yeah. So yeah. Interesting though, because if you read the story in Variety about it too, there's a big focus on esports. Yeah. And they really wanted to remove it just because with the prevalence of esports and how many people watch esports, they felt it best to, not have their game depicted that way in a setting of high skilled character people trying to roll shotgun. Yeah. That's the only thing I could ever do in Gears multiplayer. I'm sure the pros are better than that, but that's all I could ever do. So yeah. Anyway, interesting. I thought that was just an interesting little story. And just one more thing about, how video games there's still a lot of interesting things going on. And there are things that people care about that are very passionate about in video games that are things I rarely or almost never think about. And I think we could go into a huge conversation about, well, if we're worried about the depiction of cigarettes and smoking in games, and we say that causes the potential for kids to smoke, why doesn't violence in games cause the potential to kids to be violent? But we're not going to have that conversation today. That is the thing we could potentially do on a different day.
Yeah, I would go. I have a lot to say on that. So.
Yeah. Well, and we have had pretty in-depth conversations, obviously, about violence in video games on this podcast before. But that might be a conversation for a different day. So, moving on from that, did you hear the exciting news, Josh?
Oh, well, there's lots of exciting news out there. So I guess I would have to say, can you be more specific?
So you are a Switch owner. I am a Switch owner.
Yes.
Now we are really lucky because we can get a Switch that's portable. How exciting is that?
My Switch is portable.
Wait.
I brought it to the beach.
But
not on the beach, though.
but there's a new Switch, the Switch Lite, that's portable.
LIGHT. It's a Switch Lite.
Oh man, I was wondering if you're killing it with the dad jokes today. Nice work. So Nintendo did announce the much rumored, much availed new version of the Switch Lite, which is a little more pocket-sized, smaller version of the Switch. Doesn't have detachable Joy-Cons, doesn't have HD Rumble, has an actual D-pad, doesn't hook up to a TV, so there's no out on it no video out on it at all. And it's $100 cheaper. So this is
tiny.
What's that?
It's also tiny.
It's I mean, as someone who's a Vita fan, I kind of like it. I just thought it was really interesting because they made this big deal about it being super portable. Switches aren't supposed to be portable. I don't understand. But yeah, Switch Lite. What are your thoughts on it? Is there a color you like of it? Are you interested in this at all? What are your thoughts about the Switch Lite?
I would say initially I was not a fan of it or the price point.
Okay.
I'm still not a fan of the price point for the size and the
Really?
lack of options. However, I do recognize it is a big price difference from the Switch. Like, I get that.
It is $100 less. Yep.
Yes, and that's a big deal. I just figured to be competitive with the 3DS kind of going bye-bye, that it could have come out at $150. But it's Nintendo. Everything is always probably $50 more than I think they should be charging for it.
Right.
I think this is something, the more I look at it, is something I might look into getting for my wife.
Okay.
I would need to look more into how it works with my current setup. Like, can she play? Like, how is the game? How the game integration works? Can she even play games that we own? Does she have to buy all new games?
Right.
I haven't really looked too much into it, just because I just wasn't that interested. I didn't realize how small it was either. That makes me, I think, more interested.
Yeah, and they said, and maybe more has happened since then, but when it was announced, they talked about game migration and all of that good stuff that they would announce and talk about at a later date about how all of that would work. As a person who is a fan of the Vita, this actually, part of me now wishes I had never purchased the Switch until now, so I could just get this one. Because I love the fact that it has an actual D-pad on it now.
Yeah, me too. That's nice.
So I'm a fan that it has an actual D-pad. The fact
and
that
it gets rid of that stupid rumble.
Yeah, it gets rid of the rumble, which I shut off in everything immediately. It is, like you said, I play 98% handheld as is right now. So not having the ability to hook up to the television is fine. I'm totally fine with that. I don't need to hook it up to the TV. So this is the thing that, I'm kind of bummed that I have my regular Switch, but I'm also not going to get rid of my regular Switch just to buy this. Because like you said, I don't know exactly how, switching games from my current Switch to this one would work. I do like the fact that there's fun, cool colors and all that good stuff. I do like the fact that the battery life is a little bit longer, though now they announced also the rework of the current Switch that has even a better battery life than this one. So there you go, I guess. So not surprising that they announced it. I think it is a cool little gadget. I do think that this is the time for, we've seen the 3DS is pretty much sunsetted at this point. So this is trying, I think, to get in and get the Switch into the hands of every family member in a family to kind of get that taken care of. So yeah, it's a cool thing. I know some people really hate it, but I really like the yellow. I like the yellow color. I think it's cool. If I got one, I would definitely get the yellow. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on Switch Lite. Anything else you'd like to add about it to the new portable Switch, which we've never had before?
A lot of it is appealing to me, but at the same time, like they're like, oh, you can play Breath of the Wild for just an hour longer.
Right.
You can play every game, but if the game requires motion, you need to pair Joy-Cons to it. So you're still adding the problem of needing Joy-Cons.
Just don't play those games. It's fine.
It just seems like a little rushed. Like they couldn't have made this more whole. Like I don't know, like these limitations that it has. I know what the point of it is, like to be portable and lighter. But I'm like, for me, I play in dock mode a lot, and this thing just literally wouldn't work for me. Right,
and luckily they have the regular Switch that does work for you.
That's right. It doesn't. Not everything needs to be for me.
Right. I do think though this is very. This is Nintendo being Nintendo, right? They had they had the 3DS. The whole point of it was that it's 3D until they released a system that didn't have 3D. So it's not surprising at all that they would release a Switch that doesn't switch. So, not surprising. But like I said, I think it's cool. I would definitely consider getting one if I did not already have one. But maybe down the line at some point, I would swap mine to get one of these instead. So. All right, and looks like one more little story we want to talk about. Restoration Games, Josh, is doing a little more interesting stuff with Unmatched, eh?
Yes, indeed. They certainly are. First of all, I reached out to Restoration Games and one of the designers yesterday because they released the price of the Bruce Lee expansion to Unmatched that is premiering at Gen Con. And it was only $15, and I was really bummed because I thought it was a Gen Con exclusive, and it kind of is. But they did reply that shortly after Gen Con, it will appear on Mondo's website for purchase. So
okay.
I'm very excited to be able to get a very cool looking Bruce Lee set. Well, if you want, you can have Bruce Lee fight raptors now because Unmatched is releasing the InGen versus Raptors Jurassic Park set, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think Unmatched might become the best game ever.
Yeah. So Rob Davio, when he was on our show a couple weeks ago or a week ago, who knows what time is anymore, said that they had some things that they couldn't release on for Unmatched, but they got some cool licenses. He did mention Buffy. So you could have Buffy fight Raptors in the future as well, or Buffy fight Bruce Lee, or InGen fight Buffy. There's a lot of cool options. So yeah, I just think this is super cool, and it's releasing late this year. It will be the first 2-player set released, which is awesome. You could also have Alice fight T-Rex. You could have Alice fight Raptors, but we have Sattler versus T-Rex and a solo expansion featuring Dr. Alan Grant to come out next year. Each character deck featured in these upcoming releases will be designed to represent the personality and characteristics of its on-screen counterpart, and no 2 heroes or dinosaurs will battle the same way. This is via Dice Tower News as well, to give them credit. All 3 packs will feature illustrations from Oliver Barrett, who has done other entries in the Unmatched series. And it should be noted that these Jurassic Park Unmatched entries will replace the previously announced Jurassic Park The Chaos Gene game, which we talked about many moons ago.
Yeah, we did.
So rest in peace, Jurassic Park The Chaos Gene.
Yeah, which is a bummer because that game had some really awesome possibilities to be very, very cool. So, but now we know because they announced it and we didn't hear anything for a year, and now we know why.
Hey, you know what? That stinks about the game, but this looks like it's going to be an awesome buttload of games to add into the Unmatched series.
Oh, I agree. And if you told me, hey, we have to sacrifice this other game so you can have Raptors fight Bruce Lee, yep, sounds good.
Bigfoot fighting a raptor.
Right. Totally down. Totally down with that. All right. So be on the lookout for that. Unmatched is shaping up to be quite the enjoyable experience, I think. All right. We do have some amazing questions from our dear, dear listeners. Josh, do you want to take us through those?
I don't know that they're amazing, Kyle. Our listeners are amazing.
Yeah.
But, I mean, okay, I guess they're amazing questions. Let's start with Paul Calico at pcalico84 on Twitter. He says, thoughts and feelings on Will You Be My Neighbor? And that is the movie trailer for Will You Be My Neighbor, starring Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers. Fred Rogers himself dropped a couple days ago or yesterday, depending on when you're listening to this. I still haven't seen the documentary yet, which I need to watch.
Very good.
I grew up on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, so I really want to see it. I watched the trailer twice today because I didn't love it the first time I watched it. I watched it on my phone at work. And then I came back home and watched it on the big TV, and I would say I felt more emotional about it. Maybe I could just connect to it better. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was fine. Like, we'll see where the movie goes, but I think I want to watch the documentary first before I jump into this. Just because people say they have fond memories of the show. I really do. So I didn't like Tom Hanks. I'm sure is going to do a great job, but I just didn't attach to him as Mr. Rogers because I know he isn't. So he couldn't really. For me, he didn't really like become that character. So I was a little detached from that. What about you?
Yeah, so this, I don't know that I shed a tear necessarily like others did, but I was very impressed at how much I was, I don't want to say questioning because I always knew it was Tom Hanks, but I felt like it was genuine. I felt like what he was doing was real. And I did see the documentary. The documentary is excellent. It's very, very good. But Yeah, this will definitely be a movie I'll see at some point. I definitely watched some Mr. Rogers as a kid, not a ton of Mr. Rogers as a kid, but I think that Mr. Rogers is the kind of person who we rarely hear about anymore in this day and age of how our pop culture and things like that work. People who act like and behave like Fred Rogers are not people who we elevate very often anymore. So I think seeing another depiction of him and bringing it to an audience who maybe isn't into documentaries, so wouldn't watch that documentary, is a good thing. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't know that I'll go see it in theaters, but it is a movie I will definitely sit down and watch at some point. Before we move on to our next question there, Josh, obviously this was kind of all tied into everything happening with San Diego Comic-Con. Whole bunch of trailers came out. A whole bunch of things happened as far as Marvel talking about their Phase 4 plans. We got a ton of other cool stuff. Did you have one or two favorite things from San Diego Comic-Con?
There was a lot of good stuff that came out of it. I was talking about it today. I don't know that nothing stuck with me. Nothing. I don't think that anything stuck with me more than like probably the Top Gun trailer. Mm-hmm. Everything was kind of like I was on vacation. Everything kind of blended in. The It second trailer for It was very good.
Yeah.
I'm excited for The Boys starting this Friday on Amazon Prime. Mm-hmm. Since I read the comic, they just released their final trailer. And yeah, the Marvel stuff was interesting because I didn't really know a lot. I knew the shows they were announcing, but I didn't really know a lot of the announcements that they were making. Mm-hmm. So that was nice to see, having some surprises. I love that Taika Waititi's back for Thor.
Yeah.
I don't like Natalie Portman as Jane, so it's going to be a real bummer to see her become the next Thor because it means she'll be sticking around. She just, I don't know, for whatever reason, she's made some comments on her character and not wanting to return to the films, and that's just kind of put a damper on that mood for me. So maybe they can turn it around. I have faith that Taika can do that. I'm excited that Doctor Strange is going to have a genuine horror film sequel. I'm excited to see Kumail Nanjiani joining the cast of the Eternals and them landing Salma Hayek and Angelina Jolie into the MCU, which is awesome. I'm just excited that Eternals is going to get its own thing. Right. And it's going to be, people aren't going to know what to expect because it's so different from Marvel.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, the Marvel stuff is exciting to me too. What about you? What caught your attention?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Marvel stuff is very cool. I'll be very interested to see as they continue to push, and granted, I guess it worked with Guardians and Doctor Strange to a degree, as they continue to push outside of the quote unquote mainstream and they start going with more niche heroes and IP for their big films. Are we still going to see the same number of people coming to the theater to see them? I hope so, because these are things I'm actually far more interested in than I was maybe in the other ones. I enjoyed the other movies, obviously, but I'm really interested to see, because like you said, these aren't characters I know a ton about. So I'm very interested. Yeah. Just like Guardians surprised me a lot, and I didn't know a lot about Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm very interested in getting introduced to and understanding and learning who all these characters are and what they might bring to the table. So that was cool. But for me, and I always have really torn feelings about this. I am such a sucker for Tom Cruise movies, and I don't know why. I just am. And
he is so good.
I want to not like him, but I can't. I can't quit him.
Yeah.
So I'm really, that Top Gun, I haven't watched the original Top Gun in forever, probably a decade.
Yeah.
And now I really want to go back and watch that. I want to see this movie, just how they...
and Dan Silent Bob reboot trailer. I almost forgot about
that was good too. But how they redid the score during that trailer was so good.
Yep.
Anyway, so San Diego Comic-Con, they did some cool stuff. I was pretty stoked. Okay. Next question, sir. What else do we got?
We have Splig at Dopalicious. He tweets at us, what's GenCant and how do I get involved? I've heard at 425 Suzanne, which is Suzanne from the Dice Tower, mention it before. Sounds fun since I definitely can't make it. Well, I will tell you, Gen Cant is something you can find them on Twitter.
Yep.
Make sure you follow them. They're probably also on Facebook or Instagram. You can participate by just signing up. They do some things with local stores, but really, you can just enter contests. Last year, I won Grim Forest through Gen Cant. So a lot of board game companies donate a lot of games to Gen Cant. And basically, they know that people want to get involved with board games. And I don't know what they're doing this year. I haven't seen any announcements from them yet, but they typically do a lot of giveaways. So look up Gen Cant on Twitter.
Yeah, they do have a website as well, which is just gencant.com. And yeah, it's August 1st to the 4th. You pretty much participate on social media, but they will post then how you can enter to win prizes. There are definitely events at local stores and things like that. So I don't know if the list is up to date on the website for 2019 or not. But yeah, some local stores participate, and it's just an opportunity for you to still play games and interact with people who wish they could be at the convention but can't be there. So just play some games. I think you can print your own name badge if you want to for Gen Cant. There's a website that you can do that. So it's just like kind of a fun little way to be able to be part of a community who can't be part of the really cool thing you want to be a part of. So you get to be part of this other cool thing that you can be a part of. So it's fun. I think it's a cool thing that they started doing. But yeah, definitely just at Gen Cant on Twitter, and you'll be able to get most of your news and everything you need to right from there. But participating really is just easily as following and interacting with them on social media and playing some games. And that's about all you got to do. So it is a good time.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up this week. As always, we are a gaming podcast, but we do want to leave you with one other recommendation, suggestion, or thing we are currently into that's helping us live a well-rounded life. Josh, what is that recommendation you have for our dear listeners?
So I am recommending a movie on Netflix. It's called I Am Mother, and you may have seen the trailers. You may not have. It is a science fiction, it's a science fiction movie. It is, I don't want to spoil too much. It is essentially a movie about a robot voiced by Rose Byrne, who does a very good job, who is tasked with raising a human embryo to, I'm guessing, an adult. It has Hilary Swank is also in it, but the star of the movie, whose name is Daughter, is Claire Rugard. I had never heard of her before. Looking her up today, she hasn't done too much, but she did play Juliet Capulet in that ABC canceled, still star-crossed Romeo and Juliet show that my wife watched briefly. She's great in it. She's a great actress. The story is engaging. I'm not going to tell you like it's going to be the next like Ex Machina, but it definitely has like some roots in that, and it takes a little bit from Ex Machina, it takes a little bit from Terminator, it takes a little bit from the Denzel Washington one, Book of Eli, like movies like that, where there's definitely this, and even a little bit of like 10 Cloverfield Lane. Mm-hmm. It borrows a little bit from these tropes, and it just does such a great job in it of telling this story, asking some hard questions, and kind of makes you think, what would happen if you were in that situation? Or like, I didn't have a hard time imagining this situation happening. Mm-hmm. I really don't want to spoil any of it because I went in not really knowing anything about the movie. And I was pleasantly surprised. So if you like sci-fi, and good acting and very good visuals, check it out. I Am Mother on Netflix.
Very cool. I actually added it to my list while you were talking about it because It was a 92% match.
Wow.
Though I don't think it had ever shown up on any of my things ever. So that's cool. Way to promote your own material, Netflix. Nice job. Because it is a Netflix original, right?
Yes, it is.
So, all right. My recommendation, also a Netflix original. And this is something I think that is a little outside of my usual things that I recommend to a degree. It's definitely still like a docuseries, but it's about sports. And that is Last Chance U Season 4 just came out last Friday from when we were recording this. 8 episodes, about an hour each. I've already watched all 8 because I don't know what it is about this show, but this show just imprints on me. Maybe it's because I work at a community college, and the show is about, if you're not familiar with it, Last Chance U follows this season, the last 2 seasons, the football team at Independence Community College in Independence, Kansas, and kind of what their football team is made of essentially are what they call bounce backs. And they are players who had D1 scholarships who either academically didn't quite cut it, maybe did some things off campus or in their personal lives that got them in a little bit of trouble. So they are leaving Division I football for a brief period, have to go play in junior college or play some JUCO ball, and efforts and hopes to get a scholarship back to Division I. Now, that's not their entire team, but that is a significant portion of why people go there, is that they're attempting to get their scholarships back or earn a scholarship for the first time to the Division I football. And it follows these teams and the players on the teams and kind of takes you through their lives and what it's like to be them. Now, I 100% fully recognize that any series like this is not going to show necessarily all sides of every story.
Right.
Totally get it. The thing about this show that the thing that gets me all the time, and my partner works in higher ed, I work in higher ed, the way especially the head coach act, and this is true. They followed a different school for the first 2 seasons, and then season 3 and 4 are Independence. The way the coaches act, if I ever acted the way that they do, or treated any student that I interact with the way that they do, I would be fired in a heartbeat. Faster than the interaction could finish, I would be fired. It wouldn't even be a question. I would be done. I would be out. I would probably not even get to pack my desk. I would just be gone. So watching this and seeing how the coaches try to interact with and motivate players, the commitment the players have in the classroom, but then also looking at, because they typically travel back to the hometowns of the players that they're focusing a lot on, because, you know, this school, their roster is almost 200 deep. So they obviously can't focus on every person, but traveling back to the hometowns of some of these players and seeing what they went through to even get to the point that they were, hearing about the struggles they maybe had when they went to a Division I school and why they're now in Independence, Kansas, which everyone mentions multiple times. Nobody is there because they want to be. They're there because this is a means to an end. You know, so it's a really fascinating show. If you are into sports or athletics at all, I think it's an important thing to watch. If you are into or have any thoughts about higher education anyway, and athletics and higher education, keeping in mind this is NAIA, not NCAA, because it's junior college. I think it's definitely worth a watch. This show, I don't know what it is. It just gets a little... I can't stop watching it once it starts, and I stay up way, way, way too late to watch it. So that's Last Chance U Season 4. It is on Netflix. Highly recommend. I recommend all 4 seasons. So if you've never watched any of it, I recommend starting at the beginning. But if you have watched them, go ahead and get caught up because it's great. Such an interesting show. All right. So with that, Josh, what do you say we wrap this show up?
Let's do it. Thanks for joining us, everyone. In addition to finding us on Twitter and Instagram at BoardWithVG, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/BoardWithVG. So feel free to give us a 5-star rating over there. Also, if you want to communicate in the more long form or you're not feeling social media, please feel free to send us an email at boardwithvg@gmail.com. We tag our stuff with hashtag BoardWithVG, so please use that hashtag as well. Let us know what you're playing, what you're up to. We check that hashtag quite frequently. Whatever podcast service you're listening to us on, we encourage you to give us a stellar rating. That is, whether you're downloading us from the PSVG feed, the Dice Tower Network feed, or our very own standalone Board with Video Games feed. I forgot to write down my Switch code. I was trying to look it up while you were talking about Last Chance U. You can't just look it up online. I guess I need to be on my Switch. So I will tweet out my friend code so we can play Marvel Ultimate Alliance at some point. So check our Twitter. Feel free to add me. so we can play some Marvel. If you have it, or if you just want to gift me Switch games, you can do that too. You can find me on Xbox Live or PlayStation Network at Why So Serious. That's SIRRIUS. Kyle, where can people find you?
So you can find me at all of the usual places: Twitter, Instagram, PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, Board Game Geek, all at Psychocross, CYCOCROSS. Never fear, dear listener, Metafall is right around the corner. We'll be recording our prediction episode sometime probably in the next 2 weeks or so. We have a, kind of like Josh alluded to, we have a few guests that we're trying to kind of line up and figure out here. But once we get all that hashed out, we will be recording our Metafall episode, as well as announcing all of the games, dates, all that good stuff. So be on the lookout for that. Very short order. As always, if you have suggestions for future topics, be sure to reach out to us on the social media, because we want to talk about what you want to hear about. And remember, everyone, whether it be board games or video games, never stop gaming.